Hello, my name is Voya and welcome to My Deep Guide and welcome to another installation or episode of the Q&A. I believe Q&A 12 that we are at. So, without further ado, let's commence. And the question is, I have owned two Boox devices. After watching this, I decided to try split screen in vertical mode like you are doing. I could not figure out how to change it from horizontal to vertical. Their menus are overly complicated and not intuitive. The next purchase is a Supernote for me. Well, while you'll certainly, won't hear me arguing the point that it's overly complicated, this specific thing isn't something that should be complicated, because it's like you go to split screen and the first thing that you should be asked is horizontal mode or vertical mode. Now, and that's super easy, like that's very, very easy. The only thing is like two things that come to mind. If you try to split, for example, a configuration that you've made of some sort, so for example that you've made this kind of configuration and you want this now to change to another mode, you can't do that. You actually have to go to split screen, exit split screen, and then you can do it again, split screen, and then you can use horizontal mode, in which case you will get this and that works. And it's the same thing again here. So you can either go exit split screen or drag one out until it actually flips back. So that's point number one. Point number two, why you may not have this, is if you have a really, really old device, because I think that this split screen functionality is dependent on the Android version that's being used. And I believe that the earliest one was either Android 10 or Android 11 devices that were able to kind of do this. So those are the only two things that come to mind why you are not able to actually do this. But normally on these later devices, it's very easy by just simply going to split screen and choosing which one you want to use. This one is a viewer who noticed that I made a mistake in my previous Q&A when I was comparing the tilt functionality between the Note Air 3 and the Note Air 3C. So here's the 3C, and basically the problem there was that I accidentally clicked on another pen. I guess this one. For whatever reason, because the icons are not as clear actually on the Note Air 3C, and of course this pen is not pressure sensitive or doesn't have tilt. So on Note Air 3C, when you use the correct brush, you do have tilt detection, while if you take the, well, that was weird, that oh, it disappeared. It's not a disappearing stroke, it's actually the AI, because when you do a thing like that, then it thinks that you want to delete stuff. Okay, so just so you know, if that happens, that's what's happening. So you need to turn off the Smart Scribe feature. But back to the question at hand, if we are on the Note Air 3, and I use the correct brush this time, this is the one. I really don't know how I switched it on in previously to use the wrong one, but it doesn't matter because the end result is the same, because there is no tilt detection on a Note Air 3C, regardless of which brush you use. Next question is the Kindle Scribe pen better than the Heart of Metal 2 pen? Well, that's a little bit apples to oranges, simply because the Heart of Metal pen is a very specific pen. And it's specific because it has this ceramic never spend nib that is specifically designed to be used with the self-regenerating surface, or the softer surface, that the Supernote devices have. So the Feel-Right 1 or Feel-Right 2 surface that all of the Supernote devices actually have, that is designed to be able to handle a harder nib, ceramic nib, like the one that's on the Heart of Metal 2 or Heart of Metal or any of the Supernote pens. And it feels and works great. Especially the pressure sensitivity is really, really nice in combination with these two. Now, the Kindle Scribe pen is a more regular pen. How do I mean that? Well, it has an exchangeable nib, like of a normal standard, so you can actually even use different types of nibs that have different hardness and softness or roughness qualities. Let me try and get this. There we go. It's hard from this angle. But they do spend over time, but they do give you a softer, nicer, kind of different feel, right? And also it has a magnet, which is a really good one, which depending on the device that you're using might be an important thing. Heart of Metal does not have any of that. It has an eraser on the end, and it has a programmable button. Now, both of these are EMR pens, and okay, that's a little thick. Let me just choose a much thinner marker. They work, or should work, on any EMR device. Personally, I love the Kindle Scribe pen a lot, and it will work on. Oh, in the meantime, I've changed the the background here, the templates, I guess. Let's undo that. That's another thing to kind of discover. And the Kindle Scribe pen will definitely work on the Supernote, and it feels great. In many ways, I actually prefer the feel of the soft nib on the Feel-Right 2 better to this one, but they are completely different. This is like a much harder, much more precise type of a slidey-glidey feel, and this one is a little bit more akin towards a pencil on paper type of feel. None of them are exactly like that, but they're kind of resembling that. Now, the additional thing that I really like is that because of that button, I can program it. So I program it that it's a selection tool, right? And I can use this as a selection, or I can also use the other one as an eraser, although it's much easier to use this as an eraser on this particular platform. How about the other way around? Does the Heart of Metal work on Kindle Scribe? Well, first of all, it doesn't. This is one of the rare devices where it doesn't. It actually works on other devices, but not on Kindle Scribe, which is interesting. But that's a good thing, because you are really not supposed to use the hard ceramic nib on the surfaces that are not designed to be used with that nib, because you will eventually introduce scratches, whether it's the scratches are going to be on the screen or on the paper-like film surface, or on the screen protector of some kind. So the build quality of Heart of Metal 2 is absolutely like more stunning, and it's gorgeous, and it just feels really good, and it's heavier, and it's like a very nice experience to have it, but it's also extremely pricey when compared to the Kindle Scribe premium pen. But in all honesty, as beautiful and special the Heart of Metal 2 pen is, I always go for the more practical solution, more real-world solution, which is either the Samsung S6, S7 pen or the Kindle Scribe premium pen, because simply it has that multi-functionality and it has a nicer feel for me. That's the thing. So which one is better? They're both excellent, but as I said at the beginning of this really long response, it's apples to oranges. They're two different, entirely different types of pens, and they do two different types of experiences they provide you, but they do both provide excellent quality, and they're equally good, just very, very different. Next one is, hi Voya, great videos, thank you. Thanks to you, I bought Max Lumi 2 at the end of 2022 and started combining it with your MDO 22 and 23. Great. Had to overcome the copying as well. Yes, as we all who use Boox had to. Anyway, I'm on the edge of buying your MDO 23 and MMP. I haven't updated from 3.23 to 3.32. That's Boox OS versions. because of the hyperlink problem. And I'm wondering if you know if this 3.5 update makes it possible for hyperlinking from PDFs to notes. Well, you're talking about two different things. The hyperlinking problem, the problem was with the hyperlink padding on the version 3.3, and that has been fixed. So the problem before was, for example, in a situation like this, where you had hyperlink boxes that are next to each other in the MDO24, for example, and you had the daily these, they would artificially, Boox introduced like padding on the side, and that introduced a lot of imprecision when interacting with hyperlinks. Thankfully, they fixed that, so from version 3.5 you work normally, so you can easily hit May 16, for example. I press here and I'm on May 16, or I don't know, something that's surrounded with all of the stuff, so let's say June 18th, there we go. And even from this weird angle that I'm here recording, it just really works effortlessly, and it's super, super precise. So that part of the thing is fixed, and you can freely update to 3.5, and then it will all work fine. But what you're referring to is a completely different thing, which is like, is it possible for hyperlinking from PDFs to notes? In older software version, it is possible to link to documents, and I saw in one of the Boox official tutorials from 1 month ago that it's possible to link to notes. Unfortunately, hyperlinking in older software models is only possible for actual words in the PDF document and not for scribbles or line forms, blah, blah, blah. So what you're talking about is the limitation in the overall Boox platform, and that is that you cannot insert any objects into PDFs, right? So in notes, you are able to insert something, and one of the things that you can insert is basically a link to notes. But even though, you can link to a page, or you can link to a specific note, that kind, and then you add that. Well, I need to select something, so I can add a link, and you can create, and then you have the link added into your notebook, which will then take you to that notebook when you actually tap on the... Is my gestures are off? Yes, my gestures are off. That's why it doesn't work. So you should be able to tap on it, and it takes you to the other notebook, right? And then you can also travel back. So by tapping here, you go back to where you came from. That is not possible on documents. So if I go to MDO or MMP, it doesn't really matter. And if I expose the writing toolbar, these are all of the tools that you have at your disposal. So this is all of the stuff that you have. And as you can clearly see, we don't have the insert tool at all. So it's not possible to insert a tool or link or anything actually onto a PDF. So that is still not possible. And yes, I agree, that's a powerhouse. And that's the reason why I really love the Supernote, because on the Supernote, you can actually convert the PDF, hyperlink PDF like the MMP or the MDO, and convert it into a notebook, and then use links and everything that you may want from there on, which is incredibly powerful. Unfortunately, not something that's available on any other platform actually other than on the Supernote. Next one is in regards to the Supernote A6X2 or the Nomad. I would love to hear about the security patches that have not been applied to Android 11 for this device. Sidelining, or sideloading I guess, can be quite dangerous if APK file is compromised with a well-known exploit. And that is absolutely true. Not only is Android 11 an older operating system that doesn't have all of the security patches, but the thing is that it's not really disclosed which security patches are here, or at least I haven't been able to find it. And one of the things is that you can't actually see which Android version or which build is it being used on the Supernote. So you don't know actually which security patches are applied and which are not. So that's something that's definitely a thing to keep in mind. And yes, sideloading APKs is a very risky thing to do. So I know that people do like and love to tinker this kind of stuff, But honestly, it's a bit of a can of worms because sooner or later people will run into some issues and they will start exposing problems, and that's why it's kind of a thing. But it's great that you have that option. But yeah, people should be aware that that is definitely something that you should do only if you really know what you're doing and you are fully aware of the potential risks that you are introducing into the platform, into your ecosystem, etc., etc. Hi, can you please say if the A6X2 and Nomad from the US website are the same or different? They are exactly the same. It's the same device. Why they introduced the A6X2 versus Nomad thing, I'm not entirely sure. But yes, A6X2 is Nomad and Nomad is A6X2. It's the one and the same. When will you be uploading the video on Supernote sideloading? Well, that one has been delayed, and that one will be delayed simply because of the answer to the previous question, the security concerns that I do have. Not for me, but if I start sharing this, then it's going to kind of open up the door for a lot of other people to do this, and the potential for risk, while not tremendously high, it is there because it's something that you're kind of doing. Also, it's not really that straightforward. You can't just upload an APK in here and then tap on it to open it and install it. You have to use a third-party software that's actually going to interface with your Supernote so that it can install APK files onto your device. So at least that's the way it works for me, because none of the APKs that I've tried here to just kind of put on a device and open them, they did not really work. Because the thing that I do get is if I get to my SanDisk card and I check out my APKs, and for example, F-Droid, I made sure that it's the correct version. It's an unsupported file format, right? And this is how it's supposed to work in my mind. So it needs to be self-contained, and if there is a support for sideloading, it should be self-contained on the device itself. And for me, that is not the experience that I have. It's sideloading still requires a third-party app that's going to interface with the device and enable it to install the apps onto it, and that's a whole different ball game. And I thought that the sideloading support was actually supporting this, right? So that you don't have to deal with anything else, but that's not the case. And that's the other reason why I won't be actually doing this, because this is not the type of workflow that I'm comfortable with, and it's not something that I want to kind of share further on. Next question is, which device will you recommend for a PhD student? I'm about to start my PhD and I will be reading a lot of articles and books. I need to be able to highlight and take notes. Ideally, not sure if this is possible. I would like to be able to compare articles. Well, that's a really good question, really important one. And I guess that the contenders would be the Remarkable, the Supernote A5 or the A5X, the potentially Kindle Scribe, and one of the Boox products, whether it's Tab Ultra C or the Note Air 3C or the Note Air 3 or something like that. So let me just go through these and kind of give you my pros and cons, and you can then kind of see for yourself. I would stay away from the Remarkable simply because several practical aspects. Number one, it doesn't have a front light, and you while doing so much research, you won't always be able to control the environment that you are in. So it is something that you need. I believe that you need a device that is able to that you can rely on regardless of what the environment that you are in is. That's not such a big deal, but it's something to kind of keep in mind. Far more important is the space limitation on the Remarkable. It's 8 gigabytes, and also there's a reliability issue with their synchronization service. It's not always reliable, and it happens that people do tend to lose data, or their data gets kind of disappears from the server and stuff like that. And that's not fun. And also it doesn't have really great kind of PDF capabilities, and additionally it struggles with excessively large PDF files in size. So those are the reasons why I think Remarkable is not the option that you should go for. Very similarly, and even more so, I don't think that you should go for the Kindle Scribe either, simply because this one is even worse, way worse as far as PDF handling and marking, because the method that you're forced to actually, how you are importing documents onto the Kindle Scribe is converting it to the OXF format. That conversion is not always 100% reliable. It takes time. Sometimes it can take into even 40 minutes until the document appears on your device, etc. And that's just a complete mess. Writing is fine but limited, but most importantly, it's really, really difficult to, or impossible, to export documents that are larger than 25 megabytes in size from Kindle, simply because it only has one way of exporting or getting the files and documents off of device, which is the send via email, and that has the limitation of 25 megabytes. So for those reasons, Kindle Scribe is off the table as well. Then we have the potential of the Supernote A5X, A6X. I would actually recommend an A5 format for your work, because you're going to be reading a lot and doing a lot of stuff, so screen real estate really does matter. And in that case, this is a really good device because it has the capabilities that no other device have, such as you can convert any PDF document into a notebook, and once you have it as a notebook, you can do a lot of writing things, but you can't highlight, right? So that's one of the things you have to be aware of. What are your priorities? But of course, if it is as a PDF, then you can highlight all you want, and it works really, really good. Two negative points are it does not have a split screen functionality yet, and it doesn't have a front light, same like the Remarkable 2. So the same thing applies here as well, if that's something that's important to you or not. Other than that, the functionalities that this device has are extremely, extremely good. However, I would recommend that you go for this one if your priority, if your workload is that your estimate is that you're going to be writing way more than you're going to be doing reading and document processing. That's how I call it in research or whatever. So if you're working with document processing less, and noticeably less than you are with writing, then the Supernote platform is definitely for you, because the writing tools and everything is just really, really powerful, and it's a powerhouse of tools for writing, and it's a perfectly capable and a really good reader. However, if, on the other hand, your priority is the other way around, which is primarily reading, marking up documents, or processing research documents, and you have a considerable amount of writing, then a Boox device is definitely the one to go for, simply because as far as processing documents, reading and dealing with that, and integrating with any other platform, simply because it's a Google Play enabled device, so you can quickly get the files on it, off it. You can go online and download stuff. You can actually even go onto your university portal and interact with it directly, which is not something that you can do on any of the other devices reliably. Then absolutely the Boox device of some sort is the choice to go for. And in addition, it has a front light, and in addition, it has a split screen functionality and a lot of other things. Negatives: yes, the user interface is lacking, and it can be frustrating, but you do get over it, and you do get eventually it becomes something that you can normally use. But it is something that's kind of in the way all of the time that you're working, but the functionalities definitely overshadow the the shortcomings of the UI and the UX challenges that the Boox platform has. Now, finally, your question then remains like, okay, but which Boox device should I go for? Well, again, here I would go for at least a 10.3-inch device or a 13.3-inch device. 10.3-inch devices you can choose from that you can keep in mind are Note Air 3C or the Note Air 3. The difference between them, you can check my videos and then you can see what the differences are between them. Most notably, color screen versus monochromatic screen, BSR technology, which means fast refresh versus no BSR technology on the other one. 300 ppi versus 227. I did a video on that. Not really a big deal at all. So that's not something that's important. But also the battery consideration is the biggest one between these two, because the battery life on the Note Air 3, a monochromatic one, is dramatically longer than it is on the Note Air 3C. And after that, if you are going for a BSR type of device and you want a color and a BSR and things like that, which might be important for charts and documents that you're processing going through, then your choice is basically down to a Note Air 3C or the Tab Ultra C Pro. And in those, I guess the only thing that you can consider is like, do you really need a built-in keyboard that's part of it? Because you can just use any keyboard, any Bluetooth keyboard with this, and it just works. And it has a fantastic flipbook cover that allows the device to stay vertical in portrait mode or horizontal mode, and then you can just type away. And that's how I use it, and that's why I love it. But the Tab Ultra C Pro does have a more powerful processor that eats the battery even faster, so that's a bad thing. I guess the only real benefit of the Tab Ultra C Pro would be that it has a camera for scanning, and if that's a thing that you really need, then great, but you'll probably have a phone. You can always take a photo with a phone, upload the photo on your Google Drive and get it on here, or Google Photos and get it here, or OneNote or OneDrive or whatever it is that you're using. So generally speaking, if you're going for writing, Supernote A5X, or wait for the X2 when it comes out. And if your primary needs are for reading and document processing and research, then a Boox device of some sort. If the colors and speed are important to you, then I would go for the Boox Note Air 3C. If the battery life, if the colors are not important for you and the battery life is something that's important, then I would go for the Note Air 3. Back with the Supernote A6X2, the disappearing strokes get better, but they introduced another one. I call that bug phantom deleting. I'm using a Lamy, and so my two-finger gesture on the screen for the A6X2 is deleting. After the update, I got many false delete actions until I turned the gesture off. They are very aware of that issue. Something wrong with the palm rejection this time, and yes, so for me it was a different thing. I use selection with the two-finger gesture here to kind of hold two fingers and draw, and it's a selection. And what I was getting as the same thing, exhibiting the same problem, was that while writing it would suddenly select stuff and then kind of get weird of that. So, and as the user said, yes, I've been in contact with them. They are very much aware of both of the bugs, and the disappearing strokes that appear after you refresh, it sounds like they are onto it and that they figured it out, and that's something that should be kind of that we can expect it can be fixed shortly. And I know that they are also aware of this issue, which is a palm rejection thing, where it basically detects that part of your palm are contact point 1 and the contact point 2, and that I assume happens when we have this here. So then you have a contact 1, contact 2, and it thinks that you are basically doing a two-finger gesture, and then it goes for it and introduces a mess. But hopefully that's something that we see resolved fairly soon. All right, that's it for this time, this episode of Q&A. I hope that you found the answers and discussions useful or informative. If you did, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, because I am now trying to have this Q&A as once every 2 weeks that we have an episode, because there are very valid questions that the viewers are posing, and that also instigates a nice kind of conversation, double checking. I make mistakes sometimes, and then I'm addressing these mistakes and kind of correcting these things. So it's all around, I think it's a really, really good kind of regular checkup point between me and you guys, and that's a nice thing to actually have when you have this kind of format where it's a complete disconnect, kind of to connect a little bit more. It's a nice way of doing it. And also, as usual, please post the questions that you may have for other iterations of Q&A as the comment of this video, because that helps me kind of locate the questions for the future installations of Q&A in a much better and straightforward way. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video. Bye.